Hello, everybody. We are here today to join in our accessibility workflows with Jamf Pro. Now, you've heard it before, you're going to hear it again. macOS contains an on-screen reader called VoiceOver. Actually, the Q&A. We're going to do the Q&A inside of the app, so everybody here, go ahead and open the app so that people who are in attendance and our virtual attendees can all ask questions. So, I am going to pass it on to Kelly, Hector, and Don.
Thank you, Erin. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for today's presentation, Accessibility Workflows with Jamf Pro. We all came together for our love of Apple, technology, and passion for accessibility. We're going to kick off with introductions before we dive in. My name is Kelly Offerman, and I am a white female with blonde hair wearing a green sport coat and cowboy boots because we're in Texas. And I have dyslexia. I rely on Apple's accessibility features to help me adapt. Hector?
My name is Hector Barron. I am a Hispanic male. I have a limb difference on my left arm. I am wearing a Latinx tan shirt and shorts because I thought there was going to be a podium and nobody was going to notice. I am also wearing black sneakers.
My name is Don. I am a white Caucasian male, dark hair, beard, gray shirt, first time describing, so hopefully I did a decent job there. I have a severe to profound hearing loss. I am actually on the sales engineering team here at Jamf, and I rely on Apple technologies every day to actually help with my deafness.
We wanted to start with this quote by Oliver Sacks. As we've discussed, I need to read the quote. I wish for a world that views disability, mental or physical, not as a hindrance, but as a unique attribute that can be seen as a powerful asset if given the right opportunities. We wanted to start with this quote because, as we've discussed, this resonates because even though we're here to talk about accessibility and technology, we do not want people to think of accessibility as a hindrance. It's about tapping into individual strengths as we all have a different perspective. Today's agenda. We're going to cover the impact of accessibility, discuss Apple's commitment, and how we can empower your users, and wrap up with some closing remarks. We wanted to acknowledge something here. Through our personal experiences and the stories we hear, we know it can be challenging. We shared this quote earlier because changing our thinking from a hindrance to an asset can go a long way. And we know it takes work to provide an inclusive environment. And mistakes can happen along the way, but it's better to explore what is possible and be transparent when we fail. What we are sharing here are ideas of what is possible. This effort does not involve collaboration or at least taking steps towards an inclusive environment. It's not an easy fix, and it's not a done deal. It's an ongoing process towards making things more accessible for everyone. When gearing up for this presentation, I wanted to make sure I shared some of the statistics behind the group of folks we are hoping can benefit from this session. I started my research with Disability In. This is a leading nonprofit organization that's a resource for businesses in disability inclusion worldwide. And one statistic I've heard before, and I still find jarring, is that nearly 15% of the world's population, 1 billion people, experience some form of disability. Let that sink in for a second. 1 billion people. We all know disability is a wide range. Folks can be born with a disability, acquire it over time, or in many cases, it could be temporary, like requiring the use of a wheelchair after breaking your leg, or injuring your hand, leading you to need to use speech-to-text functionality for emails, etc. Ultimately, some type of accommodation or adjustment in workflow can drastically benefit the end user. For example, the need for me to use text-to-speech and speech-to-text to accomplish simple tasks. A quote I always enjoy is, "Accessibility makes the world better for everyone." With that in mind, let's look at some of the statistics we're hoping we can improve by what we're about to learn today. A lot of these statistics are focused on the neurodiverse community. However, in my experience in past research, I would also apply a lot of these same statistics and figures to represent the disability community overall. In a 2002 Forbes article, found that 29% of working age people with disabilities are participating in the labor force. And the unemployment rate for this group is more than twice as high for folks without disabilities. And personally, I can understand this. A major reason I hesitated to join a corporate environment was because I didn't know if I would have access to some of my required technology. Finding an organization that supported users with Apple devices was a requirement for me when I was looking to switch careers. The same report also found an untapped talent pool of 10.7 million people that could strengthen US businesses and economy. In fact, 1% increase in the number of people with disabilities in the workforce would boost the GDP by $25 billion. Now, keeping that statistic in mind for the economy, think of how that 1% could benefit personally by getting more accommodations on their terms, without being in a position to feel required to disclose their needs. While this is a great supporting statistic for why organizations should enable their workforce, I can't help but think of how each one of those lives would change drastically for the better. If I didn't have access to the technology that enabled me to complete my degree, I would still be working a physically and emotionally demanding job, earning under the poverty line, which sadly is not a unique experience. But how can we support their individual needs? Now that we've heard a little bit more about some of these statistics, I'd like to pass it over to Don.
Thank you, Kelly. So, taking what we've heard so far, let's actually think about something that we see daily. We see stairs everywhere. We all know that the purpose of this is to provide the access to get from a different level, whether that's up or down, and here we are. So, in some cases, you know that you'll see escalators, elevators. Many of us have taken different paths to actually get from the exhibit hall or to another session, even in this room. So for some, we always talk about, hey, it's a convenience, or maybe that's the only way to get there. But for others, it's a need sometimes, and sometimes we just don't even realize that it could be hidden, or maybe it's visible. So again, it's all about the same outcome. It's allowing all individuals to be able to succeed with the necessary access that they actually need. So that is something that we can actually see every day. When we talk about tools that actually built in accessibility capabilities, that's something that is not always visible for everybody to see. So accessibility tools have always been shared more by word of mouth, or maybe you come across a website and you learn a little bit more about it. But we wanted to take advantage of this and use this presentation to share with others to learn more about what is possible with Apple and Jamf. So asking for the audience participation here, how many of you actually checked out apple.com? If you just raise your hand, I would assume most of us have been there. How many of you actually gone to apple.com/accessibility? Okay, so coming from Apple's website page here, we wanted to take this and share this statement: make Apple yours. So from the beginning, Apple, they've always been committed in making their products accessible right out of the box because it's just the right thing to do. Sharing these built-in capabilities of Apple products with our colleagues, our friends, even family members, we still are amazed to continue to hear that they didn't know that something existed, and they were just amazed like how easy it was to use. Some, they may even share like over time, hey, I have some form of disability that was just not visible, and it made their lives easier. So again, it just comes down to you learn about something, hey, it's so cool to be able to use it, but then maybe over time, it becomes more of a need because as we all get older, you kind of develop disabilities, whether that's hearing loss, limited mobility. They're just tools built into these technologies. So Apple has always made a way to help bring awareness, and they've actually embedded this in their Shortcuts app. So they made this readily available for all users to learn about what is possible. If you didn't know this, Apple has made this Shortcut app available on the Mac, iPad, and iPhone for all the end users to be able to explore. So when you actually open this app in the Gallery tab, you actually have something where you can see the shortcuts for accessibility. It's pretty much like right there on that page. If it were to go missing, you just simply type in accessibility and you get the same results to see that right there. So it's an easy way to provide for everyone to be able to learn about what is possible that they maybe did not realize what was actually possible. So last year, we all did a presentation sharing specifically about all things iOS and accessibility. So this is just a QR link to our YouTube if you want to check it out. You can take out your phone, you can scan that, or if you just use that short link, it'll take you to that. So in this presentation, we actually shared our personal experiences of how we used our Apple technologies, which actually made our lives easier. We then showcased how you can actually utilize Jamf Pro, self-service for iOS, and the Apple Accessibility Shortcut, and provide that to your end users without them needing to disclose their disability. So we also then demonstrated how you can actually build a workflow in your environment using Jamf Pro and self-service to increase awareness for your end users, to just be able to learn about what is possible with the tools that are built in. So knowing that in mind, we always like to take an inclusive approach because, again, self-service, we know is about empowering your end users to go to the resources that they need, and we believe that you can utilize this same tool to learn about what is possible. So what better way to create awareness there with a customized experience? So we wanted to take this further and just kind of share how you can actually continue to foster an inclusive environment for all of your Mac end users. We have these steps available. If you registered, you should see that PDF in there. If you don't worry. There'll be a short link that we'll have available that you can actually scan and get access to that. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Hector.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Hello, everyone. So I like to cover some really cool things about Apple's accessibility shortcuts. Basically, this is a shortcut that you can get for macOS, iOS, and more recently for watchOS, which is pretty cool. So the idea here is that shortcuts can be a really powerful way to enable your users to do different things that they may need to do when it comes to accessibility. And so what we're going to do first is we're going to just go through the step-by-step process on how to share this shortcut. Because it is available for anybody to download, but maybe people don't know that they can download it. So we wanted to create something where somebody can go into self-service and find sort of a safe space where they can just download whatever they need for accessibility, including this shortcut. So let's get started. So the first thing you're going to do to get the shortcut itself is you're going to search for the Shortcuts app. Once you find it, we're going to go into the gallery. And once you are in the gallery, you can type the word accessibility, and you're going to see some of the shortcuts pop up. At that point, you have the ability to add one of these shortcuts into your gallery so that it can be used. Now, the goal here, though, is to actually share it with your end users, not just to have the shortcut for yourself, even though it's really useful. If you don't have self-service or you don't use self-service, this is a great way to learn about how to help one of your end users, and we'll see how in a little bit. So just downloading this is going to make a huge difference. This is a wonderful thing that Apple put together for us to be able to use. All right. So now let's go into sharing the shortcut. So what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and right-click on the shortcut, select Share, and then from there, that will generate a little link. You have to have an iCloud account connected to this to be able to do that. you'll be able to generate a link. You can save the link on a document, your notes application, anywhere you want, because that's what's going to enable you to actually share it in self-service. Once you do that, you will now have the ability to go into self-service, go into settings, sorry, go into Jamf, then go into settings, then go into self-service, and there you can actually go into bookmarks and create a bookmark with a link that you have. You can just fill out the information, give it a name, give it a description. There are some really good YouTube videos put out by Apple explaining how to use the shortcut, so that's something that will be available for your end users if you want to provide it for them. And in this case, I'm just filling out like a regular web clip. I'm not doing anything super special, except that this is going to actually link to the shortcut itself. And again, what's really cool about this is somebody who may have an accessibility need, they don't need to tell you exactly what it is. They have the ability to keep their privacy and still have access to this information. All right. I do recommend selecting Open in Browser for this one. You don't want to open it in self-service. And we created an icon for it. Our design team at Jamf created a little icon for it. In this case, I think it's a good idea to give it to all of your end users, not only to some selected ones. And then you can just go ahead and save it. And now this shortcut will be available in self-service. So here's a user experience of using the shortcut. Somebody will just click on self-service. It'll open up. They can scroll down to bookmarks. Click on Get, and that will immediately download the shortcut into their shortcuts application. So that's another requirement. You do want to have shortcuts in their device. After that, they'll be able to install it, and they will be able to actually run it from there. We're seeing here a little bit of a quick example of how it works. The users will have the ability to actually choose whatever accessibility needs they have within the shortcut. And this will generate a nice report in notes that you will be able to actually either read yourself for the user or have the user go through and find all kinds of resources, YouTube videos, and information about their accessibility needs. So it really makes a big difference to have all that information handy. I myself have used it, and I have found that accessibility features that even I didn't know, and I'm very passionate about accessibility, so it's really cool. All right, the other thing that I wanted to go over is, this is a good idea of something you may want to do, and that is actually creating a section in your Jamf for accessibility. So you can actually, you know how you have like IT browsers, you have all sorts of sections. It's a good idea to have one for accessibility, so you can file things under accessibility when you're using Jamf. And that's going to be in turn useful for people using self-service to be able to find things quickly within the accessibility section. It gives people a place to go in case they need help with something. And this is pretty simple. It'll take 2 minutes to do. I would recommend doing it even if you don't have anything to put in there right now, because eventually you will, and people will be able to find things there. Oops, I think I went a slide too far. All right. So the next thing I want to show you is, as you know, there are configuration profiles available for the Mac that allow you to turn on and off certain accessibility features. Those can also be distributed to self-service. So that's what we are going to see right now. So you would go into settings. Hold on. Yeah, we saw the categories already. You created your category. And then that's where I went too far. Cool, we're back in sync. So you can always go into configuration profiles. You can click on create a new configuration profile. And then there's an accessibility section within configuration profiles that you can actually find that allows you to create or allow users to have access to certain specific profiles that they can use. So in this case, we're going to activate sticky keys, which is a very useful functionality for people who may not be able to hold two keys at the same time. So we're going to go ahead and create the profile. That's where the accessibility section that we created becomes really useful. And then we're going to go into the accessibility section. And here's where we're going to select that profile. We're going to click on configure, just like you do with any profile. You all know how to do this. And in this case, we're going to go all the way to the last section, and we're going to select sticky keys. We have a couple of options there, depending on how we want to configure it. Then we can scope it. In this case, I'm going to give it to all users because it's going to be in self-service, so it's not going to activate for everyone. And a little description in there. And now let's look at the user experience. So I love sticky keys. I use them a lot. And this can be useful for somebody who might have broken an arm or who doesn't have access to using both hands at the same time. So in this case, I'm going to push. So normally when I type on my Mac, if I want to use a shift key, I have to hit the shift key, and then I have to kind of stretch my fingers to be able to click on the capital letter that I want to use. So if I want to type something as simple as "Hello World," I have to do a little bit of stretching. I also have to do a little bit of stretching if I want to use the exclamation mark or something like that. Also, if I want to use a shortcut to select multiple folders, for example, if I want to hold the shift key down, that's doable for me on a MacBook, but if I'm using a trackpad and a mouse, it becomes really complicated because, again, I really have to stretch to be able to select multiple things, or I have to reach with my arm to be able to actually select multiple things, so it can become a little bit complicated. But if I have sticky keys, things become a lot easier because now, there you go. If I were to type "Hello World," it would be a little bit easier. Oh, I think yeah.
So it should be playing right now. It takes a minute.
Is it playing?
Go ahead and get a 7 minutes, so click.
Okay.
Cool. Now you
Perfect. Cool. Oh, I clicked too fast. Yeah. Talking about sticky keys, right? So now I can go into self-service. I can go ahead and go to the shortcuts that I created before, and I can actually install my sticky keys profile that I have created. Once that profile is installed, we're going to see sticky keys turning on. Perfect. And now I can show you what sticky keys does. In this case, you'll notice the shift key remains pressed. I just hit it once and it remains pressed. I can actually go ahead and type "Hello World." As soon as I type the H, the sticky key goes away, sort of like when you type on your iPhone or your iPad. And then when I want to type the exclamation mark, same thing, it happens. If I want to select multiple items, I just kind of double tap on Command, for example, in this case. And then that remains pressed until I tap on Command again. And I can select multiple items once more. So that's one of the cool functionalities of it. And it gets even better. If I wanted to do like one of those multiple key shortcuts, I can actually press all of the keys that I need, and they will remain pressed, again, until I select something else. So it's a great functionality. Now, for me, that's something that I have on all the time. But somebody who might have broken an arm or something like that, who may need temporary accessibility, it's great that they can go to self-service, get the thing, use it for a while, and then when they're done, I'm really scared to move to the next slide right now. I am lost. Oh yeah, cool. Something is happening. All right. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah. Okay, you can actually uninstall it right from self-service again, and that turns it off for you. And now we go back to using the Mac as we were using it before. So that's one of the cool things about having that accessibility section. There are a lot of other profiles that you can make available for end users where they can install them or remove them if they want to. But it's nice to have a place where you can go to if you need a little bit of help. And it makes it easier. You don't have to call IT and be like, hey, I don't know what to do. But if somebody does reach out to you and they don't know exactly what to do, you have that accessibility shortcut. You can read it if you want to and actually provide your users with a solution to what they need to actually accomplish. All right. Yes.
Cool. Thank you, Hector.
Thank you.
Yes. So this is the short link. It just takes you to that workflow that we have documented. But when that no longer becomes available, we'll update it so that way it's still available after 60 days for the access that you guys will have. So it's just documented there for you. So we know that accessibility matters, and we just want to acknowledge our Jamf team, especially our UX team. We know that they've been putting a lot of work in making things more accessible, and I know that we've been working with Deb. She's back there, very passionate, so thank you. So we couldn't be more excited. So as a community, in the accessibility world, we want more organizations to be able to offer an inclusive workplace and be able to actually create awareness on what's possible. I mean, one thing that just came to mind, you saw how easy it was to just put that in self-service. Well, how is that different than going to setting and letting the users go there? I mean, let's be honest. When you start clicking, you're like, hey, I'm lost. I'm not sure where you go. Well, you can just make it available in self-service, and it's ready to go. That's the whole point. Just create awareness, and then it could spark conversation. So, and with that, we'll leave it for Q&A, and then we have a couple more slides after, but they're super short, we promise. So, yeah. So.
And they don't have videos either, I don't think, right?
What's that?
There's no videos on those slides, right?
Right, yes, no more videos.
I'm going to talk to my therapist about it afterwards.
Okay, we have currently 4 questions. The first one is, there's something known as the curb cutting effect, where things done for accessibility, like the small ramps on curbs for wheelchairs, have an outside effect, such as for bikes, strollers, even pedestrians. What are some accessibility options that we can put into self-service that would fall into that same category?
I love that. I learned about the curb side effect by talking to somebody who really gave me a lot of really good information about accessibility. If you want to learn more about it, there's a podcast called 99% Invisible. So check it out. They actually talk a lot about that. But for example, we were showing sticky keys, poorly, unfortunately, this time, but we were showing sticky keys. And you notice that there's a little thing that pops up on the corner that tells you what key I'm pressing. So if you're doing something like a presentation, for example, and you want to demonstrate how to do something on a Mac, that visually gives some people the ability to see, like, oh, cool, you're holding the shift key. So that's an example of the curve effect. It is made for people who can type only with one hand, but it is really useful for presenters, where, again, there's a benefit that you get from having that. Another great one would be the ability to listen to things on your phone, the two-finger swipe. That's great because, you may be doing something else and you may want to listen to a document or something like that, so you can do that. And even better, the cool thing about inclusion, when you think about some of the features, like the newest Apple Watch feature, you can do the pinch thing to respond to something without actually having to touch the watch. That was an accessibility feature first. You had the ability to do something similar to be able to take actions on the watch. So a lot of the features that you see now in products actually started as accessibility features. So that's why everybody benefits from taking care of people with accessibility needs.
And something I would like to add to that also is all text-to-speech and speech-to-text functionality, I might require that. Other people use it for convenience. So when you talk about the curb effect, there's a couple great presentations brought to you by Apple that just talk about accessibility might be a requirement for others and a convenience for the general population. So also keep that in mind, is that after sharing a couple of these workflows a couple JNUCs ago, I had coworkers and a couple of customers come up and say, you know, I've been having my important documents dictated back to me and I'm finding little errors because I'm taking that time to not just read it, but process it audibly as well. And selfishly, Deb, can you snap a few pics?
The next question we have for Kelly. Have you used specific typefaces designed for readers with dyslexia before, such as Open Dyslexic? If so, what feedback do you have for its use?
So if I'm interpreting the question correctly, it's the font, I'm assuming, that they're referencing. I personally do not find benefit to using that font because I was introduced to it at a later age. If I had been introduced to it maybe in adolescence or younger, I might have found that valuable. But by the time I started using it, to me, it wasn't as beneficial. What I can say has been incredibly beneficial is having the native tools built into the Mac, because so many times I was given a book or given something else and I had to have somebody else read it to me. But now having all of those abilities to have the audio on my own terms, I don't need somebody next to me to help. It gives me more independence by just listening to it.
Our next question is, are there anything that have been tried for people who are colorblind?
Two things we're going to say about that. The first one is, nobody's perfect with accessibility. We actually realized that some of our signs and some of our signage was not accessible for colorblind people. That purple, it's very hard to see for some people. So it's always a work in progress. The iPhone and the iPad do have different contrast levels and different color settings that you can use to make it a little bit easier to see what you need to be able to see. But as I said, it's always going to be a work in progress. You know, we're talking about accessibility, and we didn't have the right color necessarily for some of the things that we had. If you do stop by our accessibility booth, though, we have an accessibility sticker you can get, and we designed that logo specifically to be visible to people with color blindness as well.
Is the self-service icon available for us to get?
What was the question again?
Is the self-service icon available for us to get?
The icon that comes with self-service, or are we talking about the design?
The design thingy, yeah.
The design?
The little icon that we made for the shortcuts.
Yeah. Yes, I got the approval. Yes, we can absolutely share that. So, yeah, we are happy to share it. So,
yeah.
Yes. And honestly, if you guys have stories over time, well, are there any other questions that you have in there?
I have 3 more.
Oh,
you
okay.
guys are popular.
Yeah. So we have an email that we're going to share with you in our next slide. If you have stories, questions, we would love to hear those stories. And that's the thing about, like, it's just creating awareness, but then you just don't know what kind of impact it is. And it's just the stories, I think, for us, is what excites us to be like, wow, like, it's just amazing. So,
yeah.
Like,
If Apple devices have accessibilities, why are we sharing them within self-service? This person may have missed something in the presentation.
That's a great question.
Can I?
Oh, yeah, please.
I have one comment that I think is a reason why we're all here today. So when you get your new Mac and you unbox it, you are being asked to click through the accessibility settings today. And you've got a million other things on your plate, so you might bypass it real quick. That wasn't the case 4 years ago. When I first started at Jamf, I had to copy and paste every single email, document in our CRM, or the way we calculated stuff, and I had to put it all into notes to use the Apple native features to get them dictated to me. because I didn't know I was supposed to check a box in the accessibility settings within the settings. And I had to have another dyslexic teach me after a year of copying and pasting literally every single thing I did into notes. And so, yes, today you might open your laptop and it might prompt you to go through those accessibility settings, but how many other things do you have on your plate when you're getting new hardware? I mean, come on, let's be honest. You want to get your email and your Slack, you will probably go through and set those up later. So word of mouth and sharing about like, hey, these are possible, it's just good to make sure that we're having these conversations. I mean, anything else to add?
No.
The only thing I would add, Kelly, for example, is extremely passionate about accessibility, so she makes sure that everybody at Jamf knows everything about accessibility. So imagine self-service as your own portable Kelly, who's going to tell everyone what you need to know about accessibility.
I know we have reachability in an accessibility feature. I can't do without as a benefactor of the curb effect. Do we have a roadmap for some dream additional features that Apple may introduce that may not already be available in Jamf Pro?
That's
I would say-
question I can't even answer.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
to
I mean,
Apple.
think of
Yeah.
what's possible. What do you
Yeah.
need?
Yeah, no, I mean, I know that, we have a team that definitely, Jamf Nation, where you can go in and actually provide feedback, and they're always going through that. I mean, personally, I've actually talked to customers where they were sharing, hey, certain things aren't working, and I've been able to take that feedback and share it with the team. And I will say it has been amazing. The cool thing is, it's like, hey, we hear you. We can't do anything about it immediately, but we're working on it. And that change takes time, So I think for me, just growing up, and even like throughout my professional career, hey, we have resources, or some places like, hey, we don't have resources. If you have that mindset of like, you know what, that's just the way it is, you're not going to get anywhere. So I think for us, we just talk about it. We're patient. I mean, I still am.
Patience is the key.
I know. So I think that's just the biggest thing is, we don't know what features. And if you have thoughts, share it with us. Maybe it's already in process. Maybe it's not. And it's a great concept that we need to share with the team. So I think, I know it doesn't directly answer it, but on the sales engineering and talking to sales, I don't know what's coming in the horizon, so I can't really provide any insight to that. So, sorry, I hope that's a good answer for you. So, yeah. Anything else to add?
Accessibility@jamf.com. Anything, reach out to us.
Yep.
The cool thing about that specific alias is, we're checking it, we're very passionate about it. So if we need to bug somebody, we will. We'll do it.
Our last question. I noticed the configuration profiles are deployed to a computer level. Do they work set to a user level?
Ooh, that is a great question, and we will get back to you in the future.
Never tried that.
Okay, I am all done. I'm going to step off and let you finish up.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. To wrap this up, we want to thank Apple for providing great resources, allowing us to leverage this with Jamf using self-service. It starts with empowering your users to explore the capabilities and bringing more awareness when shared in self-service. We really appreciate you all. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you.